Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia. Welcome back to part 17 of our tutorial series on Total War 3 Kingdom featuring Cao Cao. In our last part, we had a very slow and methodical siege to take down the city of Shouchun in the commandery of Huainan. And what we did is basically utilize our army to counteract different elements of the defense. We used our siege weapon to clear towers because they outranged them. We used our melee cavalry to tank up enemy archers because they have the best defense against range, and then we used our range to kill off their spear units because they countered our cavalry, which ran wild inside once we killed off all the spear. So that's how we took it out, by taking pretty much minimum casualties, and we have about 1 to 2 turns to heal up here. We'll stay inside the garrison here because there are really no threat around us, and if we explore some of our farther options in terms of expanding, the toolmaker here in Huainan will be our next stop. Now, toolmaker have an income component. If we pop open the building browser and hop over to tools, we can see that this building provides industry income. And depending on the tier, it will provide more and more industry income all the way up to potential of 500. And if we're curious about which one they have, you can kind of look at the art. You can see this little fence here. That means it's only a level 1. You can also tell from the garrison, it's a 4-unit garrison. It's also a garrison without spear unit, so it's pretty much a free take. We'll be grabbing that next turn. So that's our goal over here. Our army can rest up. The commandery itself does need some adjustment. Well, it was hard to take it because they had this patrol building. I would argue that as a player, we don't need the help from this garrison. So we can demolish it. And then from the marketplace building, we also have a bonus to commerce here and trade influence. Well, that is nice. We are paying 20 upkeep per turn, and if you notice, we don't have any commerce income here. The only building we have contributing to income is the peasantry from the livestock farm that we captured earlier. Therefore, we're boosting nothing here. The 20% to trade influence will apply, but it's not worth keeping. So in my opinion, this also will be demolished and we'll take the refund gold. Then we have this building that is the labor building. This will give us a population increase at this current level. If we spend the money and time to upgrade it, eventually it can provide huge amount of population growth as well as a small bonus to industry, which could be useful, but definitely a big investment because you need to go to tier 4 before that happens. So this is also a building that I don't like, and we can also demolish this building as well. Now, the only thing you might want to check and hold back on is if they provide any sort of discount. So in this case, you're having 10% discount to agricultural building, which is nice, but not nice enough for us to not destroy it. Same thing here for learning and market building. Basically, the buildings are all pretty bad and we can definitely demolish. The only reason why you might hold back on something, let's say this marketplace, is if we can figure out how much exactly trade income it's boosting. If it's over 20, which I think it is with this 20%, then perhaps we can keep it for a few turns, because once we clear a building slot, it can only be constructed one at a time. So if we demolish all 3 right now, we would have empty slots here that we can't utilize. So for example, we can keep this one. This one has no upkeep, and this one also has minimum upkeep compared to the cost. We're gaining some money with the trade influence, so it will help us a little bit, and it will give us an agricultural building discount, which means we can probably build land development here before we demolish this one, so we can save a little bit on that one building. So that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to keep these for now, not because we like them, but because it doesn't help us to get rid of all 3 buildings when we can only build 1 at a time because the population is below 1 million. So that's our approach here. We don't have any characters left for assignment. This is something we have to make note. We're running out of characters and we should consider hiring more because of that. And did we get any new items from the fight? We got ourselves a horse, a white thoroughbred. It's a bronze level white horse, and we also got another title. What we're going to do with the horse is give it to our wife and heir, because any amount of authority increase could potentially result in more satisfaction, and that's really all we're looking for. It's a very small increase of 2 points, so it's not going to bring big difference, but we might as well give it to her. And then we can also level up some of the generals who participated in other fights. Dian Wei fought over there in the defense of Pengcheng, and we're going to give him Reach, which is the skill we were looking forward to. That way the army can move farther, and then we can take Flexibility next. Alright, so that's done. We also captured Xun You, which we can take a look. We never defeated him on the battlefield. We never killed him on the battlefield. Therefore, he never picked up a bad trait, even though he lost battles to us. So this way, he has 3 positive traits that he had at the beginning of the game. Dutiful is good because it will increase his satisfaction to us. He also has Clever, increases level up, which is good in combination with this because there's reduced desire for higher office. Therefore, as he rank up, he's not going to accumulate as much desire for higher office as he would otherwise. And it would save us some trouble since he does level up quite fast with Clever. And then Charismatic gives a faction-wide increase to satisfaction if he is Prime Minister, Arrow Faction Leader, a +3 public order if he's Administrator, but then also gives him an increased desire to become independent if he is Administrator. He has high Cunning stat, he has high Authority stat, and if we look at his background title of the Gentleman's Attendant, he has a whopping 70-point bonus, which is really impressive. 40 points Authority, 20 point Cunning, 10 point Resolve. He can be a decent court character because of the high authority, but the bonus faction-wide is rather lacking. 10 points of military supply is really not that great. So we'll keep all of these in mind, and if you remember when we talked about military constructions, every army needs a strategist, in my opinion, and we have a second army here which has no unit right now, I understand, but eventually they will be a full-blown army, and because of that, we can assign them a strategist right here. So that'd be perfect addition. And you might also notice that his active ability here has the wood character or the green character here for resolve, even though he's a blue character. That just means this is his unique skill. It's an active bonus that increases visibility and forest spotting, which reviews enemies hiding in forest. It's not a great skill, but we'll take it. In comparison to Guo Jia, who also has foresight, which actually does the same thing but as a passive ability. So in comparison, Guo Jia's ability is much better than his because the 1 next to the active buff means it's one-time use. It will last you 180 seconds, but still, it's still much worse than Guo Jia's ability simply because it's an active ability, and active abilities can get shut down by certain ability that increase your cooldown, for example, or prevents you from using it at all. So that's something we have to consider. And then another thing is, I believe Guo Jia's ability gives him skill points. So you see, this ability gives him +4 Cunning and +4 Authority, whereas Xun You's ability does not. Now, I believe this is an oversight by the developers because he is one of the latest characters to receive a unique model, as in he got his new unique artwork made recently. Therefore, certain things like abilities with stat points are often missing, and they will eventually get patched up in the future. And we're going to raise awareness right now. I'll report this, and that should get fixed in the future. Aside from that, he also has another unique ability, which is an old ability from a different general that was added in, so it's technically not just unique to him, but this one you see gives stats, 4 expertise, 4 resolve, turning the tide. It's a very powerful passive ability actually. All you need to do is have an enemy unit routing within 100 meters of you, and everyone around you will get a boost to all their damages and morale, which I believe is quite powerful actually. So this is a nice skill to rush towards. And then finally, this one's the standard strategist skill, so nothing too crazy about that. We already kind of got a peek of his armor. 15 base armor, very low because it's a rogue. Gives him 10 point melee evasion, which is nice. Another primary stat boost of 18, pretty standard, and 30% range block chance, which is pretty standard too. We do get an item from him, Stone Pig, which we talked about has an inflation issue because every faction has a Stone Pig. I believe we traded ours away, so it's nice to get one back. It provides instinct and satisfaction. He doesn't need instinct nor satisfaction because he is a strategist. So I think we can give it to maybe Xiahou Yuan because his primary stat is instinct, so we can focus on that a bit more. We're going to use the removal trick to swap the item immediately without having it go on cooldown, and that's all we're going to do with the new characters. He has 1 turn cooldown before he can join us. Now he is going to be expensive because remember, he had his retinue. of 4 units, so we had to pay the redeployment cost for these. Fortunately, we get 50% discount because Cao Cao has the bonus on his background as well as on his skill tree. If we can get Lady Band to level up, no, it's still pretty far away, about 3,309 experience points away. But if she does level up, we can pick up flexibility, and that'd be another 25% discount, which would be very helpful. Alright, so that's all our new generals, and we also can check the constructions of our other holdings. So here we can upgrade the tax collection. We purposely flew Taurian in for the discount, and that's going to help us quite a bit here. I think we're actually going to cancel him out now, because after this construction, we might not go for this. Because if you check this out right here, you see there's a required reform. So once we upgrade to 2, if we want to go any farther in the tax collection chain, we have to pick up this reform here, which does benefit us because we are spamming these tax buildings everywhere. And if we want level 4, we need this. If we want level 5, we need this. So this branch gives us more tax collection buildings and ultimately minus 6% corruption faction wide, which is strong. This branch is very useful. This 6% here is very useful. This 5% here is very useful. For the mid to late game, when your empire is bigger. We're still small, there's not faction-wide corruption yet, so we might opt away from this and instead focus a bit more on what Cao Cao is specialized in, and that is the red and green trees. So typically, for most factions in the game, I actually prefer rushing for this, which gets us a unique dragon unit, that is the Onyx Dragon. It's strong, and along the way we pick up industry building reforms. We also pick up some blue or commerce building reforms that gives us extra trade routes. There's +1/+1 all the way over here. And also the private tutor unlocks the archer unit, which is leaps and bounds better than archer militia. So that's my typical go-to reform route for those of you interested. But in this case, because Cao Cao's unique buildings, there are 2. One for the county upgrade of any farmland, and one for the conscription building. One is red and one is green, and we need buildings and reforms to unlock higher tier of them. As you can see here, these are his special buildings, and over here, I believe you need this one for forge, and then for his special building, the Twin Tian, I think it's right here, yeah. So once we come down here, we can get the tier 4 version of Twin Tian. And then if we upgrade it into this, we get tier 5 version, which is quite powerful with the discount. You can see that this building gives 50% cost discount for any agriculture garrison upgrade, which correspond to this side. This is the building that we were looking at over here. These are your garrison buildings. And in particular, as we expand toward the south, the reason why we're going south is because one of these garrison variations, there is a grain variation and a rice variation, depending on if you're north of the Yangtze River, which grows grain, or if you're south of the Yangtze River, which grows rice. The rice versions in the south provides replenishment bonuses faction-wide. So this is stacking replenishment faction-wide. Super, super strong. The grain version provides local replenishment. You can see there's no conditional statement underneath, which means this will be applied if your army is standing in the same commandery. So you'll build this in a farmland county, and that whole commandery will increase in replenishment, which is already strong. But if you build a rice one, then it doesn't matter where you're standing on the map. As long as you're on your own land, you get 10% replenishment. And that's from the level 4 building that we're looking at right here. If we go on to level 5 building, that figure goes up to 15% per rice garrison. There are, I believe, 7 or 8 rice land commanderies down south, or counties down south. So even if we get 3 of them, we will be maxed out at 50% replenishment for all our armies going forward. I understand there are players who really like to fight, especially with melee armies, where they take a lot of casualties, and they tend to rush for this reform here in the regional levy, because this provides 10% faction-wide replenishment. Well, think about what you can do with Cao Cao. If you can very early on pick up a few rice garrisons and max out your faction-wide replenishment through them. Very, very scary thought. So because of that, we might opt out and invest some in our green and red trees instead of keep focusing on the yellow. Therefore, we might not be able to build a tier 3 tax collection building. And since we can't do that, we might as well cancel Cao Ren now. Because if we look at the buildings, everything requires a reform after this point. So we might as well opt him out. Now there is one thing we could do, is that this livestock farm here could use a discount, because one option we have as we return back to the reform is we can take this one right here, the resettlement incentive, which gives level 4 livestock farm. But since we already pointed out this one here, we might be going down this route first, because this links into the level 5 upgrade, which is ultimately what we want. We can't get this one until we build ourselves a grain garrison or grain storage. It's not a great building, so you need a level 2 version, which I really hate, to unlock this. But because we're playing Cao Cao, we actually do eventually need this. So we have to figure out a way to get this done first. Before that point, we can get this, which will unlock level 4. This is the government support building, which is the percentage boost to the food production and income building. We can get this first and then move into things like this. There's like 2% replenishment. It's not very good, but if we're headed towards this direction, we might consider some of these buildings here. Alternatively, we might just grab that, because we want these as well. So it's going to be a heavy investment in green tree. That's pretty much my point here. And as we plan for that, we might just kick out Cao Ren so that he can go work in Huainan, which is actually a more important commandery for us right now, because we're going to develop this. The potential in Huainan is much greater, with 4 counties in total, 3 production counties and 1 main holding, especially compared to Pengcheng, right? So Pengcheng we can almost abandon in terms of development right now, as we're going to use it only for defensive purposes, which means we would like to change where Yue Jin is working, because he's currently working at Pengcheng, which we don't need anymore. So how should we handle this situation? Well, we can't just swap him from one commandery to a next. The game does not allow that, unfortunately, which is a feature that many people has been asking for since the game was launched, and I agree, it's going to be rather good if it can do that. But what we can do is we can remove him from office, which will hurt his happiness, and then reassign him to office. Now, this 20 points would not go away if you do that, so it is not the best way to do things, as he will feel kind of cheated as he gets fired. So what we should do is actually move him around in the court, swap him to a different position, and then next turn swap him back. And the position that can benefit us the most right now is the Chancellor, since it gives us 15% from peasantry. It will increase his salary by 100 here, which is not that bad, because he has a current salary that's pretty high actually, because of the administrator position, increased salary by 100. But we can look past that. Put him here. You see that he's not going to feel like he got fired. He's still part of your court. There's a 1-turn cooldown before you can put him back. And as he's in our position, we can talk about the faction council, as we can invoke the council to get a mission. And you see that he wants us to upgrade or construct any of our settlement administration, which is our capital building. So he wants to see one of them get upgraded. And if we do it, he will gain 10 points of satisfaction for 10 turns. And we get something called support for artisans. It's a 5-turn bonus of 10% income from industry and 5 points of satisfaction for all your sentinels faction-wide. Now the reason why we get this one is because Yue Jin himself is a sentinel. We talked about this when we first introduced the concept of faction councils, is whoever we place in the council positions does not affect the council bonus that they provide, but it affects the mission reward that you get from the council missions. In this case, because he's a sentinel, we get a sentinel related reward, and that's always industry income and satisfaction for sentinels. If we had a strategist, it would be some sort of commerce income reward and satisfaction for other strategists. If it was a champion, it would be reward for peasantry income. If it was a vanguard, it would be military reward, maybe increased replenishment, maybe decreased recruitment cost. If it was a commander, it could be morale reward, it could be other things related to the class. So if you want a variety of rewards, you want one character of each class in your 5 faction council positions. Or if you know your factions focus only on one thing, say we're only focused on peasantry income, then you want to put as many champions as possible inside your court so that you get repeated bonuses of either population growth, which is a possibility from champions, or peasantry income. Usually there's multiple different variations of the reward for each class, but they're all related to one theme that's connected to their color or their class. In this case, we're going to get this one for 5 turns. If we have 5 of the same and we get all 5 finish, that would be 25 turns of the same reward. So similar to our stacking credibility, the credibility number doesn't get stacked, the turns get stacked. So instead of picking up 15 credibility per turn for finishing 3 missions, we get 8 turns of it instead of 3 turns of plus 15. Same idea here. If we get multiple ones of support from artisans, it would be 5x turns of 10% income from industry and 5 points of satisfaction. So that's something to keep in mind. And we get to pick up this mission, which is nice because now even if we get rid of Yue Jin, I believe we can still do the mission. I might be wrong on that, but we can check next turn because we'll be shifting him once again from this position back into administrator, except for this time when we shift him back, we can pick Huainan as our new commandery. And right now we're spending 1 turn to tear down, so we're not wasting any time. By the time he comes onto office next turn, we can build cheaply. So that's the plan. And then we'll also be sending Cao Ren in here next turn so that we can get farther discount as we develop this commandery here. Alright, that's pretty much it for commandery management. We're not going to fix these for a couple reasons. One, we're cheap, as you might have noticed so far with all the discounting. And 2, because damage buildings can heal over time. So the amount you see here, 14 and 20, is really, really low. So it's going to be pretty quick. I think 1 or 2 turns it's going to bounce back. And also, we still have enemies around. They could easily siege us again. And since we're also going to get a rebellion next turn, since our public order is about to go down the drain, we're going to have another army spawn right outside for us to fight. Therefore, fixing this now, it's not really going to do much. It's going to get damaged again. I'm just going to leave it. When it's damaged, we get reduced income. You can see the food level is down. And the income is also down, the population growth is also down. What we get out of the buildings, they're all going to go down. We're going to lose a lot of population here. It's fine. Frontier land, going to get destroyed anyways. And we can check notification numbers. It's telling us if it's purple, it means something wrong is happening. In this case, it's telling us there is damaged buildings, there's rebellion imminent, there's low public order. 3 things wrong here. And aside from that, we have construction options to upgrade things. We're not doing that, and we're fine. The only thing we might consider is an eventual upgrade here, but we're going to wait till we get administrators for discounting before we do that. Alright, so we're good. But before we end turn here, we are going to take a look at diplomacy. Always a great habit. We take a look at who might want peace with us. 2.0 now. It was around 2.6, I believe, before that offensive fight. We lost some men, therefore we lost some military strength. And he's going to think about re-attacking us. We'll beat him again, and we'll get a big shift in power. The shift in power will go away pretty quickly. So if we don't get the peace right away within a turn or 2, it's going to reset, and you're going to have to beat him again, which I'm happy to do. Dongzhuo still hate us. Luckily, we have friends who are also at war with him to keep them away from us. Hopefully, he can still peek his army over. He Yi has taken over this land. He's a Yellow Turban faction, but we're not at war with him, so should be okay. Non-aggression pack wise, they're maybes, which means I have to pay them for it. Not doing that. Military access, there's a 1.6 with Liu Chong, which is okay because I don't mind sharing military access with him and we can get a little bit of money. But if we look carefully to negotiate, we can see that we still have a 3-turn food deal with him, which means we can probably wait till those 3 turns are up to refresh the deal and then throw in military access on top as a bonus. We're going to wait for that. So diplomacy is good. And then we can take a quick peek at espionage again, also a really good habit, just to see how many turncoats we have. You see that Zang Ba, who has been beaten by us, are willing to turn and become part of our faction. Now there's a couple of reasons for this. One, remember that fondness that we built up when we captured him and released him? That helps. And then another part is his personality, I believe. I think he's disloyal as one of his traits. I could double check that. Yes, he's disloyal, so he's likely to become a turncoat. Therefore, we can offer him that. And his army just suffered through 2 defeats, which hurts satisfaction as well. So all those combined, he's willing to turn towards us. He did lose a duel to us and also lose the battle. If you die on the battlefield, even if you have resiliency, and you lose the fight, it's a very high chance of you picking up what's called a bad trait or a wounded trait. In this case, he lucked out. His wounded trait is one of the best ones in the game in that it doesn't hurt your stat and also provide a bonus. So he's only scarred, which gives him +2 authority and +2 morale when attacking. So this is the best wound he can actually get. And I actually like him quite a lot because he has 30 points of stat. Crafty Operator is a unique ability. He's also a bandit character, not a Hun general. So his skill tree is going to be a little different. And he gets +15% post-battle loot income when he's commanding an army, which we can easily make him a commander. And he has 25% recruitment upkeep cost discount for any captain retinues you might use. Now, we are, as a faction, do not use captain retinues. Cao Cao simply do not have access to them. Therefore, it doesn't matter to us, but there are few factions in the game that actually utilize a lot of captain retinues, namely Yuan Shao in the north. So if you're playing as Yuan Shao and you're looking for Zang Ba, find him in Tao Tian's faction. He's disloyal. Try to turn him as a turncoat and add him to your faction, because Yuan Shao could potentially get 0% cost to captain retinues by reducing them using characters like him. Then his armies will be entirely free. It's absolutely ridiculous with Yuan Shao. So that's something you can plan out if you're playing that faction. But for us, I'm just interested in him because he's semi-unique with the 30 points. And he's a bandit character, so the skill tree is also very interesting. So we are going to showcase how to do Turncoat. Quite simple. We have money. We pay him 2,934 up front. We have to pay him 225 per turn to keep him as a spy inside Tao Tian's faction. But first, we're going to pick him, ask him to spy on his master, deploy. We use spying for the first time. We get experience for it. And most importantly, he's now an active spy. Click on him. These are all the spy actions you can perform. There are 4 types. Spy actions for all characters by attacking the enemy's court. So these are things he can do. Then there are spy actions if the spy is an administrator. Then there are spy actions if the spy is a general on the field. He could be multiple ones at the same time. You're always considered part of the court. You could be an administrator and a general on the field. And you can also be part of the family. If you are an heir, if you are a wife, if you are a kid of the faction leader, anyone who's part of the family can utilize these actions. Now, he's not part of the family. How do I know this? I just kind of know. I mean, the last name doesn't match up, and that's a big clue. But we can also now take a look at his entire faction. These on top are generals similar to our menu, are ones on the field. He has his army, which we just fought. So Tao Tian, Zang Ba, Shouchun are the army we just beat. Mi Zhu's up here because he's administrator. Our administrator are also listed on the top, even though they're not deployed. And then in the court, people he didn't use, you can see Lady Mi is the one I've been talking about, of the character that I want. She has 55 points of satisfaction right now, so it's going to be hard to convince her to leave. They need to be below 20, I believe, for you to have a shot. I mean, they need to go to 0 to leave, but if you drop them below 20, they can be a turncoat if their traits are not contradicting. They are loyal traits. People just will never be a turncoat. But that's things we can look at. We can also see what land they're holding, even though we can see that he just holds Donghai City. We don't have any details here. And then his army. Okay, it's pretty transparent. This is the garrison army within the This is Mijul's administrator garrison. And then faction detail. These numbers are wrong, clearly. It's a display error, just max it out here. 2 counties that he holds, where his capital is, what his faction bonuses are, if you're interested in things like that. The economy of the AI is really not worth looking at. And I don't think this number is correct. I don't think he has 50 ancillary items, unless the AI cheats that much. But I could be wrong. But we can't trade for these. They're all on the characters anyways. And what we can do here is the one I'm most interested in is extract spy. I need him to leave. I don't want to pay him every turn. But I can't do anything right now. Everything's grayed out. That's because if you look at our points, there's 2 different spy action points. One called Undercover Network. You can see it's currently at 0 out of 100. It'll gain 2 per turn. And there's the one called Cover. Right now we have 55 out of 100, and it gains 5 per turn. You always have to use some sort of combination cost of those 2 to perform actions. My question is, why can't we... he's wounded right now. He's on 1 turn cooldown, so we can't do anything. But if he wasn't, the only thing we can do is this, because this costs 0 and 25. And what this does is it will convert some of your points here into that. And we need a combination of 25-25 at the minimum to withdraw him. Now, these are flat cost. The character of the enemy faction can have bonuses to counteract spying. What I mean by that is they can have hidden items, or items that you don't see, it's not hidden, it's on the character, or traits or bonuses that increase the cost of every single action by X amount. And we can learn those on the first attempt of performing action. So I'll show that next turn when he actually comes back from being wounded. And that's why we always want to take a look. We're still not interested in him, so that's all we're going to do. And you see that he started out with 55 points in Undercover Network cost, the second currency. And it's important because if you have a character who's not a turncoat that you send out as a spy, by the time they get recruited, they're starting from 0-0. Whereas turncoats always have some bit of points in one of them already, which allows for easy extraction. So it's always nice to use turncoat whenever you can. And now if you look at the army, you see that he is our spy. We are paying him 225 extra per turn. Very pricey. I want to pull him out as fast as possible. Oh, my mistake. The 55 points is cover cost. The under network one is the one we have 0 of, which we're hoping to get more. So it's always a nice habit to check both diplomacy and espionage at the end of the turn to make sure we, don't miss anything. In this case, we're good to go, and we can end turn here. So Tao Tian's army has returned. He wants to fight us here again. And he also have a yellow turban rebel outside as well. So what we have to do is round them up and have them run around the commandery with us one more time. Be a little bit easier this time considering the fact that only this unit might have fire arrows. Oh, he does. We can see right here. So Tao Tian has that skill. It's only 16 units. Not going to do much damage to our towers, so we can fully round them up this time. So let's go do it. Alrighty, so we're loaded up in here. Snowy fight again. They split their army once again. We can't... Oh, there we go. There's a second group. That's the archer with the fire arrows. So we might even want to run our generals out to kill those real fast. But I think it's fine. They can burn a couple down. It's also snowing. When it snows and rains, fire spreads a lot slower. So that's also working in our advantage. All we're going to do is we're going to move our troops to the opposite corner. This time it's a lot easier because they have less men, so there's a lot less contest. I can just put them here, stack them on top of each other, call them one, have them be ready to draw their attention, and we can start. One can just run to the opposite corner, 2 will come out. We'll do this on fast. We'll try to chase them, but I'm not going to commit. I just wanted them to stand around. Oh, the cavalry's chasing. Keep running, keep running. We don't want to kill him. He's our spy now. Because we just popped his resiliency, so if he dies now, he's dead. That cavalry should die very soon. We don't need to go straight into the other group. They're gone. The archer also died before they can... Oh, actually no, the archer's still alive. Oh, Tao Tian has very little health. Alright. I don't want to fight him. He has no resiliency. I don't actually want to kill him. There we go. Fire archers are done. Now we just loop for a little bit. They're gonna die very, very quick because they have very few men this time. And we're just gonna round them up. Nope, we'll decline everything. You're one of us now. Stop fighting us. So spies will not turn on their army unless you spend those points to ask them to turn. What will happen after this fight is we might get an option to extract him if we capture him post-battle, or we can tell him to stay. This might actually save us money because if we can extract him post-battle, we don't have to use his point to extract him, and then we can do it instantly. So you can see the tower shredding them. You can see the loose formation, that means the arrows hit them. And towers do so much damage in this game, which is why we had to take them out before that big siege fight. And they have no cavalry. Well, they had a couple, but it's going to go with the slowest speed of the units. Therefore, they're just going to die here. And when all the units die, the generals will charge us, and it will be quite fast, but the army loss should hurt the morale enough where they would probably just rout. Alright, these two towers are fine. We don't have to loop them around the whole town. You can definitely just loop like this. Like, okay, we're going to stand here. They'll chase us to like here. And then we will do like a loop here, set back, and then loop around. And they'll die. 4 towers in this small area. They're doomed. You see the bodies. Yeah, keep them within these 4 towers. Just start looping them like this. The towers have pretty far range, so you can just loop them like this. And you can see a couple of them taking damages. Shouchun might actually die if he doesn't run soon. And just loop around. Alright, he's routed. But he might actually die from... Ooh. He died. No resiliency on him, so he's gone. I don't even want to fight him. We can hit him a couple times, make him rout, but I just want him to rout from morale. I'm going to drag them closer to the edge. That way, when they rout, they don't die like that. Time to rout, my friend. There we go. End the battle so he doesn't die. There we go. Alrighty. Down he goes. It's okay. Cao Cao still has resiliency. We couldn't kill him this time because he was on his last one. See, we can extract him now. This way we don't have to deal with anything with the points, and he will just join us. And we'll also take income here. Alright, so Zang Ba is now part of our faction, his spy returning. There might be a 1-turn cooldown for him to come back into the faction. And this is a relationship mission where us as Cao Cao have to pick between 2 traits on 2 of our generals. In this case, we can only pick 1 because we also have the trait. So like, requires you do not have the following trait fraternal, requires you do not have the following trait dutiful. If we don't have the opposite trait, you can pick any, but because we share the trait, we can only side with the general who also have the trait. And all this will do is increase the relationship between the 2, which will speed up their progress towards friend or Oaththorn. Or you can choose to ignore it if you don't want to side with either one. It's not going to make the other person unhappy. So I would say just side with 1. You can always increase relationship with 1 of your generals. Alright, so the outcome of that battle was pretty clear. We have utterly defeated Cao Cao. This unit here only has 19 axe band. It'll take 1 more turn for him to bounce back. He will bounce back full health though, so that's something you gotta make note of. We also have this first rebel spawn. You can see it's very small, but rebels will continue to grow in size. It will actually have more generals and more troops each turn that passes by, so you want to end them now. And because the first spawn is so small, you can beat them with just 3 generals on delegate, which is something we're going to do here. And we see that she has an item. So another cool thing about the first 4 or 5 rebel spawn you generate in every game is they are highly likely to have items, and if you capture the general post-battle instead of killing the general, there's a chance you can execute for the item. Therefore, we can get the item they have, and there has been time where they could have a gold item on them, and you could even get the gold item from the rebels. So farming rebels not only give your generals experience and gold for beating them, there's potential to get items, and it doesn't hurt us that much. Even negative 100 public order, we are only losing 12k population, which can be overcome if we have a good enough administrator. In this case, we just pulled one, so we don't actually have it. The city has fixed itself by itself. This probably will take one more turn. What we're gonna do at this turn is take a look at our generals, because okay, so he's completely extracted, so he's available to use right away. He has one issue in that he has a huge retinue from his previous employer, so if we summon him, it'd be super expensive. His skill tree is also slightly different from generic champions that's not a bandit. He's a bandit character. Now, where does this say he's a bandit character? It doesn't really say. You can look at skills. These skills here on the bottom, villainy, gluttony, and unpredictability, treachery, these are bandit skills. Only bandits have these skills, and they also have unique active abilities. Mending, which is a healing ability. It's actually really, really strong, and that's why we decided to pick him up, because he has some unique bandit skills that we can showcase. There are bandit subcultures and bandit factions in the game. Zhang Yan in the north, Zhengjiang, as well as Yan Baihu in the south are all bandit factions you can play. They have different retinues, they have different buildings, but the generals are shared between the two. And they look quite similar, but the skill tree is different. So that's pretty cool. We have a level up. We also have some new characters available to recruit. Oh no, we don't. This is just telling us character development, as in who joined us through spying and who is on cooldown, as in he just joined us on the capture. He had a 1-turn cooldown. He was just summoned back from his assignment, and so forth. We're going to be wrapping up our episode here on the beginning of turn. Next turn, or next part, we'll come back. We'll manage our commandery a bit more, flip the administrator in, send in a new assignment, destroy and conquer the tool maker over here as we make our way down south. And then over here, we'll summon another general to complete the army, as we'll use this group to wipe out both the rebel group as well as Tao Qian's dwindling 19 men here, just to end him and make him re-summon a new army entirely from his capital. Maybe back here, or maybe over here even, as we'll continue to play a defensive war with Tao Qian and try to steal some of his most valuable generals this way. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll see you all next time. Bye!